Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Yale. I'm very glad to have you here. My name is Pericles Lewis. I'm the Vice President for Global Strategy of the university, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this two-day conference on the theme of Brazilian studies in the United States. And this is a follow-up to a smaller symposium we held here in May, which was a very lively opportunity to think about the future of Brazilian studies and to plan for this larger conference. This conference will extend those discussions around specific themes that allow for deeper analysis of the topics in scholarship. Yale has a deep and rich relationship with Brazil. In fact, some of our first international students at Yale came from Brazil. João Francisco Lima entered the Yale School of Medicine in 1833, and since that date, Yale has continuously been involved in educating Brazilian leaders. Furthermore, Brazil and its language and culture have been important subjects of study unto themselves here at Yale. The teaching of Portuguese began at the university in the early days of the Second World War, when Yale began instituting area studies programs in the mid-20th century, and you're in the Macmillan Center for International and Area Studies, which is the later development of that phenomenon. One of the first programs instituted was the Latin American Studies major in 1953, soon followed by the offering of Portuguese, first as an elective and then in the 1990s as a major. Yale's history with Brazil has resulted in a vibrant and growing alumni community, which is furthered by a variety of programs and collaborations in Brazil, including those through the Council on Latin American and Iberian Studies, the Yale Law School, the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, the Yale School of Public Health, and the Yale School of Management. I'm glad to see that you'll be hearing today and tomorrow from some of our distinguished faculty members involved in a few of these collaborative research programs. Today's event is the result of a collaborative effort between Yale and the Ministry of Education in Brazil, and we're very excited to be able to continue some of those conversations over this weekend through our diverse panels and discussion questions addressing a variety of topics. I want to say how grateful we are to Mr. José Soares da Silva, the Minister of Education of Brazil, and to the hardworking staff at the Ministry for their support, especially Felipe Sartori Sigollo, who will be speaking to us shortly, the National Deputy Executive Secretary. It's a pleasure to welcome back Ambassador Fernando Melo Barreto, an old friend now. I'd also like to recognize Carlos Ivan Simonsen Leal, the President of Fundação, Getúlio Vargas. Sorry for my Portuguese pronunciation. I have been to Brazil and had a great time there, but I didn't get very deep into the language. So if you notice an Italian accent, you'll understand. And Marlova Noleto, the director and representative of UNESCO in Brazil. We're grateful for their support for this conference as well. And here at Yale, I'd like to thank Professor Claudia Valeggia, chair of the Council on Latin American and Iberian Studies, for having the Council take on the planning for this conference, and to Professors David Jackson and Stuart Schwartz for bringing us all together. And I think it was really their vision that is being realized in this next couple of days. It's a great example of a collaborative model with many institutions being a part of the organizational process. I'm pleased that this shows the continued importance of Brazilian studies here at Yale, and I hope this relationship, which began in the 1830s, continues to thrive in the coming century. And of course, thank you to all of you for being here, to our prominent scholars and panelists from throughout the United States and Brazil, for representing your various disciplines and for your participation this weekend. So we're really honored to have you here. I hope that these are fruitful discussions, and I hope that Yale continues to collaborate with your institutions to strengthen Brazilian studies throughout the United States and in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lewis, and thank you all for coming in spite of this gray day. I know some of us at least would like to be in Bahia right now, but this is it, and thank you so much for attending this wonderful gathering of people interested in U.S. Brazilian studies. As the chair on the Council on Latin American and Iberian Studies, I would like to express my gratitude to a lot of people, and particularly those who made this possible, who have helped in the planning and coordination of this conference, and to those who will be participating as panelists and moderators. I'm very excited about what's in the agenda for us. The breadth of topics is really fascinating. I'm looking forward to attending all of the panels. I would like to especially thank Professor David Jackson and Stuart Schwartz here for helping to convene this important gathering, and to our Council and Ministry of Education staff working together on all of the organizational aspects of putting the conference together that were not minor, and this is a true proof of what a good collaboration means. I would like to briefly introduce Mr. Felipe Sigollo here, the representative from the Ministry of Education of Brazil, who will give some welcome remarks. Felipe Sigollo, a civil engineer, is currently the National Deputy Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Education, coordinating 6 national secretaries, subsidiaries of the ministry. Previously, Mr. Sigollo has held the position of State Secretary of Social Development of Sao Paulo between 2015 and 2016. He also directed the Companhia Paulista de Obras e Serviços from 2011 and 2014. Sorry, my Argentinian Portuguese is, but I promise I will not talk about soccer. He has worked at the state and municipal levels in Brazil as state secretary, as well as a deputy mayor of 2 regions of city of Sao Paulo. Mr. Sigollo has over 15 years of experience in public administration and leadership, and has been alongside great managers and politicians, always acting in the executive area, developing and implementing governmental programs. Welcome, and thank you, Secretary Sigollo.
Boa tarde a todos. Em nome do Ministro da Educação do Brasil, Rocieli Soares, agradecer a presença de todos. Me permitam falar em português, acho que a maioria aqui vai entender, mas com grande satisfação que eu retorno aqui à Universidade de Yale, após a nossa conferência de maio, e dirijo-me aqui novamente aos senhores, pesquisadores, professores e alunos. Faço especial agradecimento aqui em nome do Ministério da Educação, a Universidade de Yale, Office of International Affairs da Universidade, the Council of Latin American and Iberian Studies e the Whitney Iberian Macmillan Center for International and Area Studies, pela organização do evento. Fazer um agradecimento especial aqui ao professor Kenneth David Jackson, a Asia Neupen, Blair Nielsen, que se engajaram na organização dessa conferência, bem como da anterior, juntamente com a equipe da assessoria internacional, Gustavo Sevilha, que está ali. Agradecer também a ministra Carla Barreto e a Auriana. Quero agradecer a todos os presentes, os professores que se prontificaram a vir até aqui, compartilhar o trabalho e a pesquisa, assim como apresentar a perspectiva sobre os estudos sobre o Brasil em suas áreas de pesquisa. Quero aproveitar para agradecer também a forte presença da Fundação Getúlio Vargas, em especial o seu presidente Carlos Ivan Simonsen Leal, e do diretor da Faculdade de Direito, professor Sérgio Guerra, que é o embaixador aqui da Universidade de Yale no Brasil. Eu quero agradecer não só a presença, mas também a parceria que a gente está construindo para estimular os estudos sobre o Brasil aqui nesse país. Agradecer também ao escritório da Unesco no Brasil, que teve uma participação importante nessa iniciativa, e agradecer um cumprimento muito especial ao nosso cônsul-geral aqui nos Estados Unidos, o embaixador Fernando de Mello Barreto, e a embaixadora Maria Helena Pinheiro, que estivemos juntos já e que tem uma atuação muito forte aqui. Senhoras e senhores, em maio, quando estive aqui, tive a oportunidade de conhecer alguns trabalhos que são desenvolvidos em universidades americanas sobre o Brasil em algumas áreas do conhecimento. A intenção do MEC, do Ministério da Educação, era ouvi-los, observar o estado atual dos estudos sobre o Brasil aqui nos Estados Unidos, de modo a identificar formas de estimular o estudo sobre o Brasil neste país. Após o levantamento realizado pelo Ministério, foi observada a existência de centros de pesquisa de excelência aqui nos Estados Unidos, que abordam temas relativos ao Brasil, distribuídos em centros, cursos e especializações sobre a América Latina, que temos interesse de conhecer melhor e apoiar. Nesse movimento, que vem desde a década de 1940 nos Estados Unidos e ganhou ressonância principalmente na área de humanas a partir da década de 60, cunhado pelo saudoso professor Thomas Skidmore, quando utilizou o termo pela primeira vez no prefácio de seu livro Politics in Brazil, em 1967. Desde então, importantes centros surgiram, tais como em Brown, Austin, Harvard e aqui em Yale. Também em Colômbia, estive ontem lá, que nos brinda com esse Yale, que nos brinda com esse evento aqui hoje, assim como demais universidades, cujos pesquisadores estão aqui representados nas sessões temáticas. Entendemos que estudos sobre o Brasil nos Estados Unidos contribuem para oferecer novos olhares sobre o Brasil, nos diversos campos do conhecimento. Nosso desejo é dar um passo a mais. Temos a intenção de aproximar os estudos brasileiros aqui nos Estados Unidos aos compromissos assumidos pelo Brasil na Agenda 2030, dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável. Trata-se da intenção de buscar novos olhares e perspectivas sobre o Brasil, num olhar estrangeiro, para contribuir na busca do país ao pleno atendimento dos objetivos negociados e aceitos pelos Estados parte do acordo. No que versa educação, nós temos o objetivo 4, que traz o compromisso de assegurar educação inclusiva, equitativa e de qualidade, também no artigo 212 da nossa Constituição, e promover a oportunidade de aprendizagem ao longo da vida para todas e todos. Nessa linha, a troca de experiências internacionais, as análises científicas, as pesquisas são fundamentais para o acompanhamento nacional desse compromisso assumido. Trata-se de um olhar crítico e científico externo, complementar ao acompanhamento feito pelos órgãos públicos nacionais, como o Ministério das Relações Exteriores, do Planejamento, o próprio Ministério da Educação. Nesse sentido, temos o desejo de aproximá-lo das diretrizes e metas do Plano Nacional de Educação, aprovado também em 2014 no Brasil, entre suas diretrizes a promoção humanística, científica, cultural e tecnológica do país. Entendo que essas iniciativas possibilitam a criação de canais entre universidades e centros de pesquisa de ambos os países, para o desenvolvimento de intercâmbios, abrem novas perspectivas de investigação científica que levam ao melhor entendimento mútuo e fortalecimento da ciência de ambos os países. Eu, pessoalmente, já tive a oportunidade de apresentar um pouco para a equipe técnica do governo de transição. A gente está numa transição de governo e esse é um dos temas, essa aproximação internacional é uma das prioridades para a gente. Temos a oportunidade de conhecer um exemplo de resultado dessa formação de redes de pesquisa. Cito o exemplo da parceria entre a Universidade de Yale e a Fundação Oswaldo Cruz, aqui representada pelo professor Mittermeier Galvão dos Reis, que recentemente assinaram acordo de parceria na área de saúde pública, que eu tive o prazer de conhecer hoje. De modo a contribuir com as ações e estímulos a estudos brasileiros nos Estados Unidos, o Ministério tem satisfatoriamente negociado parceria com a Fundação Getúlio Vargas, que acho que vai ser muito importante. Fico muito feliz de ter uma delegação aqui da Fundação presente, liderada pelo seu presidente, prestigiando esse evento que demonstra, mais uma vez, a relevância estratégica do tema sobre estudos brasileiros nos Estados Unidos. Ratificamos ainda, após o encontro de maio, que a língua portuguesa, idioma oficial do Brasil, abre caminho para conhecimento da nossa literatura, artes, assim como boa parte de nossa produção científica desenvolvida em nossas universidades, divulgadas em periódicos nacionais, dissertações e teses. São quase de 500 milhões de pessoas falando português no mundo, e uma das iniciativas de desenvolver também essa parceria entre a comunidade dos países de língua portuguesa. Após o último encontro, observamos a importância do português, não somente na modalidade escrita, como também oral, vista como fundamental em pesquisas de campo, meio ambiente, saúde pública e arte. Ainda identificamos como limitadas, apesar de crescente número de publicações nacionais em língua inglesa disponíveis para consulta, assim como reconhecemos a importância das políticas nacionais federativas de mobilidade internacional nesse processo de estímulo à pesquisa sobre o Brasil. De maio para cá, professor, um dos documentos mais importantes da educação, a Base Nacional Comum Curricular, a gente está disponibilizando agora também na versão em inglês, para poder trocar conhecimento, tanto do ensino fundamental quanto do ensino médio. Assim, a intenção da conferência é criar um grande debate, estímulo entre nós. Este debate não envolverá somente nossos convidados em cada sessão temática, mas todos os presentes aqui. Continuaremos a ouvi-los, de modo a observar meios e parcerias para contribuir nos estudos sobre o Brasil. Não queremos que esse debate se restrinja a este ambiente e nesses 2 dias. Nossa intenção é de espalhar a discussão, o debate, a pesquisa, de forma cada vez mais intensa. Aproveito para agradecer a todos que contribuíram nesses debates, nessas 6 sessões temáticas que teremos nesses 2 dias. A assessoria do Ministério da Educação, aqui presente, encontra-se à disposição da Universidade de Yale, eu também, demais presentes, para a gente contribuir e avançar nesse importante projeto e outros que também surgirem. Novamente, professor, agradeço aqui à Universidade de Yale. Muito obrigado a todos.
Secretary Sigollo, Ambassador Barreto, Ambassador Maria Helena Pinheiro, President Simonsen Leal, Professor Claudia Valeggia, visiting scholars, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This conference at Yale, Brazilian Studies in the United States, The Road Ahead, marks one of the most comprehensive reviews of studies of Brazil in the United States to be undertaken since the first doctoral degrees were awarded in American universities for studies of Brazil almost 70 years ago, and the first International Colloquium of Luso-Brazilian Studies met in October 1950 at the Library of Congress with the presence of such figures as Sérgio Buarque de Holanda, José Honorio de Rodrigues, Cecília Meirelles, Helen Caldwell, Ralph Dimmick, and Antonio Cândido. Recent research by Darlene Sadlier in her book Americans All follows a generation of Brazilian intellectuals invited to the United States in the 1940s and 50s under the Good Neighbor policy, whose presence set the stage for the wave of visiting professors teaching in U.S. universities under the NDEA Act of 1959. Studies of Brazil in that first phase in our universities belong primarily to the social sciences, and in 1966, historian Robert Levine published a guide to research titled Brazil Field Research Guide in the Social Sciences. The first comprehensive study of Brazilianists, as scholars of Brazil came to be called, was José Carlos Sebe Bonmehi's 1990 book of interviews, A Colônia Brasilianista, the Brazilianist colony. Today's Yale conference comes almost 20 years after the meetings at the Brazilian Embassy in Washington, D.C. in 1999 under Ambassador Paulo Tarso Flecha de Lima, whose objective was to establish interaction with the academic community in the United States on an official level, and which gave rise to the publication of O Brasil dos Brasilianistas, Guia dos Estudos sobre o Brasil nos Estados Unidos, 1945 a 2000, and its counterpart in English, Envisioning Brazil, A Guide to Brazilian Studies in the United States, 1945 to 2000. Those binational studies continued to be limited in scope to the humanities, arts, social sciences, education, and library science. The last general review of studies of Brazil in the United States was conducted in 2005 by the Brazilian Studies Association with the aim of assessing and promoting traditional fields of study. For the first time, and distinct from previous meetings on Brazilian studies, the Yale Conference assigns priority to the sciences, particularly public health, medicine, and the environment, alongside the humanities, arts, and social sciences. In addition, our purpose is to provide structural models for the study of Brazil in the United States based on active collaborative research tied to institutions in Brazil. Our aim is to establish linkages that will aid future researchers recognize their work in both countries and provide a framework for associations among scholars and institutions for the future. Our work today was prepared by the May conference at Yale, in which more than a dozen specialists on Brazil presented papers on their own research, covering studies in ethnomusicology, anthropology, history, literature, forestry, biomedical research, and public health. For this November event, scholars will debate central questions affecting their research and discuss models for improving binational cooperation, as well as consider the evolving nature of their fields. Our goal is to produce a book on these discussions that will provide helpful advice and directions for another generation of scholars of Brazil and the United States. This conference itself is a collaborative effort between the Ministério da Educação and Yale University. With pleasure, I recognize the presence of the National Deputy Executive Secretary, Felipe Sartori Sigollo. I would like also to thank the personnel of the ministry for receiving me for a planning session in Brasilia in February, and for a second meeting in Rio de Janeiro in July. Supported by UNESCO, this conference is the outcome of many combined efforts. At the Ministry of Education, I would like to recognize Minister Carla Barroso Carneiro, assisted by Maria Aureana Pinto Diniz and Gustavo Servilla, who's here today. Thanks also to Dr. Sergio Guerra, Dean of the Law School of the Fundação Getúlio Vargas, for our productive meeting in July, which led to the participation by the Foundation and the presence of its president. This conference could not have been organized without the truly efficient and perceptive organization of Ms. Asia Nopani of Yale's Council of Latin American and Iberian Studies, assisted by Blair Nelson and Daniel Juarez, and in Brasilia by Gustavo Servilla. Our work at Yale for Brazil in Connecticut has enjoyed the support of the Brazilian consulate in Hartford and Ambassador Fernando Melo Barreto, for which we are especially grateful. It has been an honor for me to work with all of you in organizing the road ahead, and I would like to welcome especially the many scholars and specialists on Brazil about whose experience and collaborative research we will soon learn. Yale has a long and memorable role in Brazilian studies. In 1908, Brazil's first ambassador to the United States, Joaquim Nabuco, came to campus for 2 lectures, The Place of Camões in Literature and The Spirit of Nationality in Brazil. Nabuco's choice of the Camõian epic is evidence that literature nourished his relationship with political culture, which he understood in aesthetic parameters. Carolina Nabuco wrote in her biography, quote, "To reveal Camões to the Americans was to promote the Portuguese language and to treat one of his favorite subjects. The love of Camões that at age 20 had inspired his first book, Camões e os Lusíadas, accompanied him his whole life," end of quote. Nabuco's presentation on nationality shares its content with Machado de Assis in his famous essay, Instinct of Nationality, seeing in Brazilian life a recapitulation sui generis of the great archetypes of Western civilization. He thought that universal values of culture had to be built over a long period of apprenticeship rather than simply located in national identity. For Nabuco's imagination, Brazil is one of the stages of the human drama, and he its spectator. In recognition of Nabuco's lectures at Yale, the seminar, Joaquim Nabuco at Yale, Statesman, Author, Ambassador, a centenary symposium commemorating the lectures at Yale in 1908, brought scholars and many members of the Nabuco family to Yale in April of 2008. Today, in recognition of Nabuco's love of Camões, the Beinecke Rare Books and Manuscripts Library exhibited the first edition of Os Lusíadas and the Rimas. Advancement of studies of Brazil and the Portuguese language at Yale date from the late 19th century with the philologist and medievalist Henry Rosman Lang, and continued with such scholar teachers as Malcolm Batchelor, Haroldo de Campos, Richard Morse, and Amelia Viuacci da Costa. We owe our accomplishments as scholars of Brazil to several generations of U.S. Brazilianistas whose work and dedication to Brazilian studies has brought us to this point today. In 1938, for example, American anthropologist Ruth Landis traveled alone to Salvador, Bahia for a year's research, and in her book, City of Women, commented on the restrictive policies she encountered. At the same time, she expressed her admiration for and confidence in the Brazilian people and her admiration for its liberal social attitudes in comparison with the U.S. at the time. In the 54 years since I first visited Brazil, I have seen many changes and difficulties. However, I continue to be fascinated by Brazilian literature, and like other Brazilianistas who are committed to the study of Brazil, I have confidence in the road ahead. On behalf of the Portuguese program and Brazilian Studies at Yale, I welcome you here and wish you a successful conference and a memorable visit to Yale. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today representing Fundação Getúlio Vargas this day. FGV is a 70-year-old institution. It's not as old as Yale. it is not a university, but we have several schools. And we have many fields of research, mostly in the social sciences. I would like to thank Yale University through the Yale Office of International Affairs, through the Yale Macmillan Center Council of Latin American and Iberian Studies. And I would also like to thank the Brasilia Office of UNESCO, the Ministry of Education of Brazil. I'm very happy to be here indeed, not only as president of FGV, but also as an intellectual observer. I come here not only to maybe give a small help on you trying to understand us, and believe me, I haven't yet done such a thing, but also to understand how you understand us, which is more important from us than really understanding ourselves. Brazil is today at a very interesting point in its history. My opinion is that we ended a cycle. This has several implications. Possibly we have gone back to a more traditional course, and maybe tomorrow at the end of our seminar I will speak about this. Anyway, it is a great pleasure to listen to people that have dedicated their lives to studying my country. Let me tell you that I admire all of you that do this. It will be a great pleasure for me and for all my people that are here to interact with you. I'm not a historian. I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a simple engineer who happens to know a little bit of economics. But I will gladly, helped by my colleagues, help discuss any issue there is that we can help you. As you possibly know, FGV in Brazil excels in many areas. So, and here you have some of the best people at FGV, not me, them. So, thank you very much, and it is really a great pleasure to be here today. Thank you.